You come from a Hindu background?
Muslim.
Oh, you come from a Muslim
Yeah, I
background?
grew up Muslim.
Okay, so what made you leave Islam?
I
Was there
just
anything
felt like-
particular?
I feel like at least the surrounding my circumstances and reading about and looking at people in my country or around me, I
Where you
started
from?
seeing Pakistan.
Okay.
I started seeing more differences and more reasons that would, I don't know, like separate people rather than bring them together. And even if I'm just talking about within Islam, if you're looking at Sunni, Shia, Ahmadi, whatever, and I just thought that religion itself was like sort of like a source that was dividing people and causing more hurt than good.
Don't you think it's the other way around? It is the people who misinterpret religion for their own agendas that are causing these divisions and causing harm and everything. Because if you look at the principle of Islam, I don't know how much of Islam you've studied, but one of the principles in the Quran, this is in Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 32, Allah says that if you kill one man unjustly, it is as if you've killed the whole of mankind.
I completely agree.
Okay, but then there are people who would go around killing in the name of Islam, in the name of religion, in the name of whatever it is. So we would say that the message of the Quran takes higher precedence. So anyone who says that, look at the example of this bad Muslim and let's blame all of Islam, I think that's unfair. Don't you think so?
You're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
you're of course more well-read and more learned than I am. But what you can't deny is in all religious books, whether it's the Bible or the Quran, there are incidences which are hard to swallow. Right, and when those incidences come to play, then we'll come up with like some explanation for it, or just be like, oh, it's symbolic or whatever. Even if we're talking about something like child marriage, right? So my question here is, why do we get to pick and choose what works and what doesn't work?
Okay, so which ideology would you accept? Because I can pick holes in any ideology.
I mean, that's I'm
You
not
see what I
as,
mean?
I'm not as
So
well read.
say for example, no, you don't need to be well read. This is common sense. Take for example, secularism. Today, in any secular country where there's secularism, obviously, killing a child is okay. Yes, in the womb of a mother. Abortion, I'm talking about. Yeah, perfectly normal. You see, there was a time when this was really frowned upon and was really bad. What changed?
I'm sure
The people or the principles? What changed?
the people.
Yeah, but then the people had impact on the principles because they made up their own principles. See what I mean? And that's the reason we need someone who would actually have an objective morality, which doesn't change with time, and which is rooted in objectivity rather than
I agree
personal,
with you on
you
that is something
emotions,
I agree with. That,
yeah.
See, it is a very gray area. I do believe that religion should exist for some people because it's a form of social order.
Not for some people, for all people. Because you see, rules, laws play an important role in everyone's life. I don't think anyone is excluded from that. So whenever we make rules, for example, take this example of this world today. Everyone is saying we should have democracy everywhere. Yes? Very well. The forefathers who actually implemented this principle of democracy, they said it is for the people, by the people, and of the people. Do you think that's still the case for democracy today?
No.
Absolutely. But you see, when I say they, I mean the same secularists, they want to go and bomb countries to establish democracy there. This is what I'm trying to say. Whenever you have human-made principles or laws, they are bound to have a lot of negativity, a lot of disadvantages. But when you have equality in religion, then it is, when you talk about equality, like for example, even between men and women, I consider equity rather than equality. Because men and women have their differences. Well, I don't mean just physiologically, but also in many other aspects. So for us to say that they're equal is unfair. So that's why Islam has given certain role to the mother, certain role to the father. A father, even if he says that, okay, I'm very rich, I don't want to now take care of my children or my wife, that is the greatest sin in Islam. In fact, the wife has a right to demand divorce in that case because his responsibility is his family. Yes? So whenever there is a role which has been defined by God, I think that stands the test of time as well. But when you have humans defining everything for you, then you have something which is problematic. And the other thing I want to point out here is that, one day, whether we believe in God or not, one day we all are going to die. That is the only truth that everyone will have to accept and no one can deny. Do you agree? What do you think will happen to us after we die? I know it's one of those questions a lot of people don't want to think about because it's kind of morbid, but it's a reality.
I mean,
It's a fact that we cannot escape from. You see what I mean? So the question is, I know you must have thought about it. So give me
Give
me a
like I
overview.
said, I've grown up Muslim, right? So for
Alhamdulillah.
me, it's sort of like a knee-jerk reaction to also believe in the concepts of heaven and hell.
Okay.
So for me, heaven and hell do exist, and
You're still a
think
Muslim, mashallah.
they're just labels.
No.
For me,
These
I
labels
think-
are what defines you.
Yeah, like Christianity.
Yeah,
has
almost
it.
all, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I think Hinduism as well.
Which is why
They
I
have more of a temporary heaven and hell, but they still do.
Yeah, the concept
Yeah.
is still the same.
So have you thought about this?
Heaven and hell. And yeah, I believe when
Okay.
I die,
Yeah.
God will decide, whichever God that may be, what's going to happen, whether I'm going to go to hell or heaven, or
What is the requirement to go to paradise?
I think you have to be a good person.
No. You can be an atheist and be a good person.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah, you can.
But this is, look, when you're talking about Islam, which you alluded to, then you cannot change a principle. When I asked you what is the requirement, I meant from the perspective of Islam. You see what I mean? You cannot take a Hindu perspective.
You go to the mosque, you do Hajj,
That's not enough.
Yeah, fasting.
The most important thing is to not associate anyone with Allah. That is the most important. Without the first pillar, all the other pillars are meaningless. Okay? So one of the first pillars is obviously you worship Allah and you do not associate anyone with Him. And this is Tawheed.
But see, this is maybe something that, as my perspective, might disagree. Because for me, if it's an atheist, if it's a Hindu, if it's a Christian, whatever they may be, if they're a good person at the end of the day, they'll go to heaven.
Okay, who defines what's a good person? Let's start with that. Because,
Like if,
wait a minute. But who amongst humanity decides it? For example, I gave the example of abortion. Do you agree or disagree with abortion?
Yeah.
So you are pro-choice.
Yeah.
Okay? There are many people who are pro-life. They say that is humanity. You say killing a baby or killing an infant in the stomach or in the womb of the mother, that is humanity. Who's right? You see what I mean? You see, this is the crossroads every human will come to. Because somebody has to have the last say. And we say that is God. Because He created us, He knows us best. Yeah? What's your favorite phone? Android? iOS? I don't know. You see, if you have an Apple phone, whoever manufactures that phone will know exactly what are the do's and the don'ts for that phone. And if you disobey that, then you will have to face the consequence. Okay?
Don't you think like human morals as humanity, no religion, no concept of any holy books associated, is there not as humanity, as a human being, a good and an evil?
Yeah, but that's the example I gave you about abortion, remember?
No.
But who
Let's not get
decides?
into politics because that
No, that's
for a
not
lot of
politics.
people, It is 100%.
You think abortion is politics?
Take a second, Mike. What's like when you're a human being, right?
Yeah.
But without any knowledge, as soon as you're out of the womb, whatever, you're a human, you're a functioning human being with morals, and those morals don't come from anywhere else as opposed to just being human, right? There's a moral compass inside you that has nothing to do with religion per se, right? You know as a human being, it's evil to kill someone.
Yeah.
You know it's a good thing to not kill someone. and
But is that the
fine.
case all the time? Do you believe in just wars?
But why are people bad? Because everyone has this.
No.
Take a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Everyone
We need to
has-
stick to one topic.
I am talking.
Because when you talk about morality, we have to pick one point within morality. You talked about killing. Is killing wrong all the time? See what I mean? Every time you pick up any moral question, you will have to face, is it right all the time? Or is it wrong all the time? I would consider rape wrong all the time. So that is one thing I think we can all agree upon. Okay? But killing, there are just wars. You know, certain times when killing is required because the other party would want to eradicate you otherwise. So someone has to step up to them.
That's survival.
Yeah.
No, not all the time. For
You also
example,
have to contextualize killing.
yeah, that's why I said just wars. Remember I told you, I did contextual. And the reason I asked you, is it wrong all the time? So the question boils down to who decides.
But you also, that's why we have a brain. That's why we have
Yeah, but
to
that's
know.
why, because of that brain, there is disagreement.
Of course, there's always.
That's the point I'm making. My question is, who has the last say?
Who do you think?
God.
God has the last
Of course.
Let me give you.
That is the only way you can come to a rational conclusion and a decision where everyone will agree, because none of us are going to say you're better than me. How dare you decide what is moral and immoral? Even the atheists who don't believe in God, they have this problem. Because atheists have differences between them. You know, there are many atheists who are pro-life. Yes, many atheists. They see a potential human being who did not do any wrong has been punished for the fault of the parents most of the time. Yeah, because most of the pregnancies which have been terminated is because it's an unwanted pregnancy. It's not because of rape. In fact, Islam has provisions even for that. There are exceptions where abortions are permitted, like for example in the case of rape. Scholars do allow that. So when we discuss things, we have nuances. But when you are someone who has rejected God or do not consider God as the main mediator, then you'll have differences within humanity. The very word you used, we'll have differences, and because of these differences, we have many wars.
But listen, when you're talking about rape, abortion being allowed in Islam because of rape,
As an exception
as
to
an
the rule.
exception,
Yeah.
yes. But it's also in Islam, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it also very hard to prove the incidence of rape?
It is difficult.
So lots of women,
Yes.
at least in my country, because they're not able to prove that they were raped.
Yeah. So there are different, for example,
Right?
there,
So that's why it's
today
a very
many
gray
scholars,
area.
no, you're absolutely right. There is a very stringent rule to claim somebody raped you. Okay, because a woman can make a false claim as well. Yes, and that poor guy can get death penalty, because in Islam the rapist gets death penalty, isn't it? So in Islam we have obviously scholars, the fuqaha. We have a lot of scholars who would use different methods to condemn someone for rape. And I've heard many scholars would use DNA and today it's not very difficult.
Yeah, DNA now, right? But
Yeah.
we're talking about like 20 years ago.
But-
like so many women who.
Yeah. So you know one thing, whenever there is a death penalty, then the rules are also very strict for that, because not an easy thing to do for the judge just to give someone a death penalty because a woman says he raped me. Yeah, it's very easy. But what I'm saying is that, look, at least in Islam we have one principle, which is if they get away in this dunya, who's going to save them up there?
Yeah, God will.
Exactly, and that will be the worst punishment than what they escaped in this world. So either way, there is no escape for the one who committed the crime. They will have to do the time, whether here or up there.
But going back to how you
Yeah.
said that scholars will decide, right? Wouldn't you say that scholars to some extent are also biased in their decisions?
No, look, when there are principles like this, I don't think all the scholars in Islam will come to a conclusion which is contrary to the Quran and Sunnah. They're always within the framework of the Quran and Sunnah.
Yeah.
But what we have to come back to is the Tawheed. Unless we accept Allah as our creator and our Rabb, and the one who decides things like morality, things like the do's and the don'ts, the halal and the haram. If you look at everything that is haram in Islam, you will see that these things are something which everyone will recognize, including the atheists. Say again?
Morality is haram.
No. I'm saying if you look at the halal and the haram in Islam, for example, everything that is haram in Islam, I think most people with the common sense and rational mind will agree with it. Take the example of alcohol, gambling, fornication, adultery, telling lies, killing someone, all of these things. I think most people will agree. Yeah. No, I'm saying.
Or killing someone is all a different kind of.
Yeah, of course, everything has nuances. Everything has a reason. So when we talk about halal and haram, there is obviously rules and regulations for everything. And that's the reason we have Sharia. Sharia is what defines, when we use the term Sharia, unfortunately the Western world considers only the punishments as Sharia. No. In fact, that is like maybe a small fraction of the Sharia. Most of what is included in the Sharia is how you respect your parents, how you respect your neighbors, even if they are non-Muslims.
Tell me, do you know the inheritance Sharia laws?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with respecting our parents?
So what's wrong in the inheritance within Sharia?
With a smile on his face, you know.
Because I know where you're
As a
going
woman-
with this. I know where you're going with this. Go on.
Go on.
No, go on, make your claim.
No, but as a woman, let's say I don't have any brothers, right?
Yeah.
My father's wealth will go to my uncle and my uncle's son.
It'll go to you too.
But a small amount. Why should my uncle?
No. It's not about a small amount. In fact, because you are the immediate family, I don't think your uncles will get more than you.
No, my uncle would get more
he
than
would.
you. As per the
I don't know how it works in Pakistan, but
in Pakistan, which is the Sharia law.
yeah. Look, I don't know the local rulings over there, but
That's a
you,
big ruling.
but most of the problems people have is between a brother and a sister. So why would the men get more?
She has an issue with her uncle.
Yeah, I know. But like I said, look, I don't know your personal issue, but I'm speaking generally. Many people think it is unfair to give double the inheritance to the male member than the female member between brother and a sister, for example. Yes, you know why that is? Because for the man, when his father dies, yes, the responsibility of taking care of the sister, the mother, comes on him. So in fact, I think you should read it up. It does.
Even
It
if
does.
it does.
No. We have not even if. It does, and that's the reason I'm saying he'll be using his own whatever inheritance he got. He'll be spending it on his wife,
But
on his children.
Be realistic. That doesn't happen.
No. Look,
Yeah.
look. I think you're talking two different things. One is what the people do. One is what Islam has.
People in Pakistan do what Islam
What Islam's principles are.
People in Pakistan
Sorry,
do what
can I?
Islam
Can I?
I don't think they all do.
So this was my issue, right? So many things in Islam that's written in the Quran, that's in the Sunnah, that are open to interpretation. And this is like what I was saying back then. So different people have different interpretations.
When it comes to things like inheritance, when it comes to things like halal and haram, when it comes to death penalties, there is no scope for any gray areas because these things are quite serious. Okay, what people do, and I agree with you. Okay, what people do, they abuse the Sharia principles, and they would give their own so-called made-up fatwas. Because somebody might give them money, I don't know how it works. But you see, we are not talking about those corrupt muftis or those corrupt scholars. We are talking about the real, genuine scholars. There are quite a few, I'm sure, in Pakistan and elsewhere as well. But the principle of Islam is something that is not something that can be corrupted from within, because this is what Allah has Himself said, that He will preserve the Quran. And our basis of the Sharia is based on the Quran and Sunnah. If Allah Himself is going to preserve the Quran, then He's going to preserve the Sharia as well. So you can't just corrupt it like that, nilly-willy.
Everyone does.
But people do make... No, look, like I said, that you need to talk about two things. One is the people abusing the Sharia, and the Sharia itself, its principles, coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to distinguish between these two. And I agree with you. There are people, there are scholars who are rogue, who actually would go against the Sharia for their own gains. I'm not saying there aren't.
My problem is not with Islam.
Yeah.
My problem is with these rogue people who use...
If your problem is not with Islam, why did you say you're agnostic?
That's a different.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
That's my circumstance.
No, but
That's-
your problem then becomes with Islam.
So my problem, that's where it comes, right?
If
When
you're going to
people
use
are-
if you're going to use scholars as...
No, but
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is that when people interpret the Quran or the Sunnah in whatever way that makes sense to them, that is what I have a problem with.
So what you need to do
And when you
is go
say
to the
that-
real scholars. Go to the ones who are credible.
who's a
The ones who are
scholar?
credible. There are loads.
Absolutely.
I'm not familiar with the
Everyone.
Pakistani scholars, but there are lots of scholars who are credible.
Everyone
And if
has
you-
their own interpretation, their own...
But for example, look, if you want to worship Allah as one, you don't need a scholar for that, do you?
No, you don't need a scholar for that, but I'm talking about our...
Why would you say you're agnostic then?
That's how I was brought up. Like, that's what my circumstances...
No, but
make,
you,
that
if
is-
you recognize
that's
yourself
not-
as a Muslim, then you shouldn't say you're agnostic. Say I'm a Muslim.
I don't recognize myself as a Muslim.
Why is that?
I said I was brought up Muslim. I'm no longer.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to find out. When you're blaming the scholars, I don't think your worship of Allah has got anything to do with blaming the scholars, is it?
I think it does, because that's what frames your mindset. That's what frames your perspective on
I think the
things.
Quran should frame your mindset about the oneness of
But
Allah.
that's what I'm saying. In the Quran, there are a lot of things that
Okay.
are not okay with me.
So name me one thing in the Quran that takes you away from the worship of oneness of Allah. Name me one thing.
Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not that well.
Okay.
versed.
Have you actually read the Quran? Not just in Arabic.
Long time
No, I don't mean
ago.
just in Arabic, because many Pakistanis, Indians, Bengalis, mashallah, and other people as well, they just read it in Arabic and they think this is Khatam al-Quran. This is the end, I've completed the Quran. But the whole purpose of Allah revealing the Quran upon His Habib, upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is so that you understand it after reading it. It's not just for you to read it and then just keep it in the cupboard, you know? No, you have to understand it. And I think maybe you are a victim of that. It's possible that you haven't actually looked into Islam fully, based on the principles of Islam, read and understood the Quran. So maybe give it a chance. You know, why would you want?
That I agree with you. I do think that Islam and Quran has some wonderful things written in it that should be followed. But I still do think that there are some things that to me are problematic or that don't sit well with me. It might be okay with you. It might not be okay with me. Like, I don't think the Quran gives women equal rights as men.
Do you think they should have equal rights?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so you're saying that women and men are equal in every way.
They should be.
Maybe you have to read about.
What do you mean?
No, wait, just 1 second. If you think that is the case, do you think we should send the women in the fighting in the front line?
Yes.
Yes, and in the fire brigades?
Yes.
Yes. Why does the Western countries not do that?
They do that.
Just 1 second. They don't.
They do.
Look at the fire brigades. Most of them are men.
But there are women.
Of course there are. But why are mostly men? Because even they don't recognize they're
That's a
equal.
cultural thing. They have different roles.
Which
in
culture?
society.
Over here the culture is equality of men and women. What are you on about? Okay, so even here they recognize the differences, and that is the reason. You know how long have the women considered the feminism has been out there? Okay, even today in fields like mathematics, in fields like physics, yes, in many of the science fields which are analytical and all, it is still men who go and register and become and study that field. Even to this day, the women are actually a minority within those fields. Why is that?
Because accessibility is so hard for them. They have other roles that they're meant to be. They're supposed to.
No, you said they're equal. You said they're equal.
They're exactly equal and different. Women are given worse resources in terms compared to men. Women have to be. They're told stay in the house, take care of the kids, raise.
I'm talking about the West.
That's your job. That is
I'm not talking about Pakistan. I'm talking about the West.
Even in the West, 50 years ago.
So you think most women today are told to stay home and cook and clean?
A lot of women are also the financial gap.
I don't think you stayed here long enough. How long have you been in the UK?
5 years, right?
Yeah, that's much. I think you have to realize that most women today, you're talking about maybe the 70s, or even before that, when they say go and cook and clean. In fact, most of the workforce today are women. Do you know that? Most of the people in the workforce are women. But even then, you go to universities where they teach maths and physics. It's mostly men. Even now, 70 years after feminism, it's still the case.
I think that's changed.
Okay. Anyway, let's go back to let's go back to Tawheed. Look, I'm not saying. Look,
I respect your perspective.
a lot of things feminism has done. I think the first wave of feminism, where it was to establish equality. And by the way, you know what was?
Equality is established.
Hold on. I think initially that was the reason for the feminism, because of non-equality. Women were treated as property. You know, you talked about inheritance. You know what was the inheritance in these countries? You guys, the women.
I know. I'm from Pakistan.
Yeah, so that is what they fought for. But Islam gave them the right 1400 years ago to inherit, which was unheard of at that time. And Islam also gave them the right to be scholars. If you look at the early, take Aisha radiallahu anha, you know, a scholar of Islam who narrated like so many hadiths. She's probably like the third person to narrate the most hadiths or something. So that's what I'm saying. Islam did not prevent the women. Islam gave them the rights when nobody gave them the rights. So anyone who says,
I'll give credit where it's due. There are, like I keep saying, there are a lot of things that are good.
I still want to hear from you, which part in the Quran tells you that Allah is not one?
Why do you hate us?
Because that is the Tawheed, that is the first pillar of Islam, and you're saying you're an agnostic. I really want to know what tipped that balance.
I don't know.
If it is, look, if it is,
personal preference.
if you think it is the people who led you to do this, then I think you should reconsider that, because
Thank you.
reconsider and
I'll
read the
think about
Quran.
it. I'll think about it.
You're laughing it off now, but wallahi, this, I wouldn't want you, you know, my dear sister, you too, mashallah, you know, and the brothers here as well, all of us, we want you to be in Jannah. You know why? Because
Everyone wants everyone to be in Jannah.
yeah, I know, but there are conditions for Jannah. It's not something like a walk in the park. Okay? Yeah, I know. Excuse the pun. So this is what I'm saying. If you follow one of the things which will guarantee you Jannah is to at least believe in the oneness of Allah. Because there's a hadith of Prophet ﷺ which said that if you had even a mustard grain of iman in you, then one day you will definitely enter Jannah. Okay? So Please don't call yourself agnostic. Be a proud Muslim. Maybe read upon it, and you'll see the benefits of both dunya and akhirah in it, inshallah. And this is not just some saying. I have actually lived it and I've experienced it in a Western country, and I can say that many of the Western countries, many of the people here, they are genuinely amazed by what Islam has preached about women from day one. You know, the amount of rights that they have been given when they were none. So that is what I'm saying. Look into it holistically, and don't just look at it. Look, I know there are many people who might portray Islam in a negative way and call themselves, an alim or scholar or whatever. But I'm not saying to go and look for those kind of. Look at it yourself if you want, and then of course you have to have the benefit of going to an alim. If not in your home country, maybe you'll find one here, inshallah. But give yourself a chance. Do not risk the akhirah. That's all I'm saying. Okay, inshallah. May Allah give us all hidayah, and thanks for your time.
We are ready for shahada.
Yeah, I think they are Muslims internally. It's just that they don't want to.
Good talking to you.
All right, take care. I wouldn't want to force them. I know. Barakallahu feekum. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.